The fire tower stood like a forgotten lighthouse in an ocean of trees, 50 feet above the forest floor, suspended on rusted iron legs that groaned in the wind. The cabin was nothing more than a glass box with a cot, a stove, and a radio that crackled more than it spoke. Emma climbed the final steps and pushed open the hatch. The previous ranger had left 3 days ago. The handoff notes were brief. Radio check at 0800 and 1800. Report smoke. Keep the logbook current. You will be alone. She dropped her pack on the wooden floor. The space was 12 feet square, windows on all 4 sides, nowhere to hide from the view, and more importantly, nowhere for the view to hide from her. The forest stretched in every direction. Douglas fir and hemlock, their canopies forming an unbroken carpet of green that disappeared into blue distance. No roads visible. No structures, no sign that humans had ever touched this place except for the tower itself. Emma unpacked methodically. Canned food on the shelf, water jugs beneath the cot, batteries for the flashlight, the satellite phone for emergencies only, 3 minutes of talk time per month. The stove was small but efficient. She lit it and set water to boil. Instant coffee. The smell filled the tiny space. Mixing with the scent of old wood and the faint metallic tang of the iron structure beneath her feet, the radio sat on a desk bolted to the floor. She flipped the switch. Static hissed, then a voice broke through. Tower 7, this is base. Radio check, confirm position. Emma picked up the handset. Base, this is Tower 7. Position confirmed. All systems functional. Copy that, 7. Weather looks clear for the next 72 hours. Next check at 1800. Base out. The static returned. Then silence. Emma sat on the cot and looked out at the forest. The sun was already low, painting the canopy in shades of amber and rust. In an hour it would be dark. In 2 hours it would be the kind of dark that city people did not understand, the kind that pressed against the glass like something physical. She opened the logbook. The entries went back 30 years. Different handwriting, different rangers, all saying essentially the same thing. No smoke, no incidents. All clear, routine day, wind from the north. All clear. Radio check completed. All clear. Page after page of nothing happening. Emma added her own entry. Day 1, arrived 1600 hours. Tower condition good. Visibility excellent. All clear. She made dinner on the stove. Beans from a can, crackers, an apple that was already starting to soften. She ate slowly, watching the light drain from the sky. The forest changed as darkness came. The individual trees blurred into a solid mass. Then, even that faded, leaving only blackness pressed against the windows. No moon tonight. No stars visible through the clouds. Emma lit the kerosene lamp. The flame pushed back the darkness inside the cabin, but made the windows into mirrors. She could see herself reflected in all 4 panes. 4 versions of herself suspended in a cube of light surrounded by nothing. The tower creaked, metal expanding and contracting, wood settling, normal sounds, structural sounds. She lay on the cot and pulled the blanket up to her chin. The temperature was already dropping. She could feel the cold radiating through the glass. This was what she had wanted. Distance from people, from expectations, from the constant noise of a world that never stopped talking. Here there was only the wind and the forest and the night. She closed her eyes and listened to the tower breathe around her. But it came. The knock woke her at 3:47 a.m. Not a creak, not the wind, not a branch. A knock. Knuckles on glass, sharp, deliberate. 3 times. Tap, tap. Emma sat up, heart hammering. She reached for the flashlight beside the cot. The sound had come from the north window. She was certain of it. She turned on the flashlight and aimed it at the glass. Nothing, just her own reflection staring back, wide-eyed in the harsh beam. Beyond the glass, absolute darkness. She stood and moved to the window, pressed her face close to the glass and cupped her hands around her eyes to block the interior light. The flashlight beam penetrated maybe 30 feet into the darkness before dissolving into nothing. She could see the tops of a few trees swaying in the wind. Nothing else. No movement, no shapes, no explanation. Emma checked the other windows. East, south, west, all the same. Empty darkness. She went back to the north window and examined the glass itself. No cracks, no impacts, no marks of any kind. A branch, she told herself. a branch blown by the wind, striking the glass. But she knew what a branch sounded like. This had not been a branch. This had been a knock. She sat on the edge of the cot, flashlight in her lap, and waited. The tower creaked. The wind moaned through the iron supports. Normal sounds, expected sounds. 20 minutes passed. Her pulse began to slow. Then it came again. Tap, tap. The same window, the same rhythm, the same deliberate sound of knuckles rapping on glass. Emma shot to her feet, aimed the flashlight, saw nothing. She grabbed the more powerful spotlight from the equipment locker, the kind used for scanning the forest during fire season. 10,000 lumens. She turned it on and flooded the north side with light. The beam was so bright it turned night into day. She could see individual needles on the pine branches, could see the texture of the bark on the trunks below, could see everything within a 100-foot radius. There was nothing there. No ladder, no person, no animal large enough to make that sound. The nearest tree was 40 feet away. Its highest branches were at least 10 feet below the level of the cabin floor. There was no way for anything to reach the windows. Emma kept the spotlight on, scanned slowly along the support beams. The iron legs of the tower were smooth, no footholds, no way to climb them without equipment. She angled the light downward. The forest floor was 50 feet below, just dirt and pine needles and the scattered debris of fallen branches. Nothing moved. She turned off the spotlight. The darkness rushed back in, somehow deeper than before. Emma sat down, forced herself to breathe slowly, to think logically. The tower was 50 feet high. The supports were unclimbable. The nearest trees were too far and too short. Therefore, nothing could have knocked on the glass. Therefore, she had imagined it. Sleep deprivation, the isolation, the unfamiliar sounds of the structure. Her mind was filling in patterns that did not exist. She lay back down, kept the flashlight in her hand, kept her eyes on the north window. The knocking did not return, but she did not sleep either. Dawn came gray and cold. Emma made coffee and stood at the east window, watching the forest emerge from darkness. The light revealed nothing new. Just trees, just the same endless canopies stretching to the horizon. She felt foolish about the night before. In daylight, everything seemed manageable, explainable. The radio check at 0800 was routine. Tower 7 status, base all clear, no smoke, visibility good. She did not mention the knocking. What would she say? That she heard something that could not have happened. Emma spent the morning making a full inspection of the tower. She climbed down the ladder and walked the perimeter, examined each of the 4 iron support legs, checked for scratches, for disturbances in the dirt, for any sign that something had tried to climb. Nothing. The forest floor was undisturbed except for her own footprints. The supports were solid, rusted in places, but intact. No marks, no evidence of contact. She climbed back up and inspected the outside of the cabin from the catwalk that ran around the perimeter. Checked every window, ran her hands along the frames, looked for cracks, for damage, for anything unusual. The glass was old but sound. The frames were secure. Everything was exactly as it should be. By noon she had convinced herself it had been nothing. A dream, a hypnagogic hallucination, the mind playing tricks in that space between sleep and waking. She ate lunch and updated the logbook. Day 2. Clear conditions, tower inspection completed. All systems functional. The afternoon passed slowly. She read a book, watched the forest, listened to the wind. The evening radio check was routine. As the sun set, she felt the first flutter of anxiety return. Night was coming. The darkness was coming. And with it, the possibility that she would hear it again. Emma lit the lamp early, made dinner, tried to occupy her mind with mundane tasks. But as the darkness pressed against the windows, she found herself watching the north glass, waiting. The knock came at 11:34 p.m. Tap, tap, the same window, the same sound. But this time she was ready. She grabbed the spotlight and turned it on in one motion. Light flooded the north side. Nothing there. She kept the beam steady, scanned the entire area, the supports, the trees, the ground below empty. Then the knocking came again. But this time it was not from the north window, it was from the east. Tap, tap. Emma spun, aimed the spotlight. Nothing. Then the west window. Tap, tap. Then the south. Tap, tap. The knocking was moving around the cabin, circling. One window after another in sequence, North, east, south, west. North, east, south, west. A rhythm, a pattern. Emma stood in the center of the cabin, turning in a circle, the spotlight sweeping wildly. There was nothing outside, nothing at any of the windows, but the knocking continued. Then it stopped. The silence that followed was worse than the sound. Emma stood frozen, spotlight still on, breathing hard. Then she heard it. A new sound, scraping, something moving along the outside of the cabin, slow, deliberate. The sound of something dragging itself along the glass. She aimed the light at the south window, where the sound was coming from. Saw nothing. But the scraping continued, moving from south to west, from west to north, circling the cabin. Emma backed into the center of the space. Every direction was glass. Every direction was exposure. There was nowhere to hide. The scraping stopped at the north window. Silence. Emma kept the spotlight trained on the glass. Then slowly a mark appeared. Not from the outside. From the inside, condensation. Her breath, forming letters on the glass. Number, not letters. A handprint. Small, child-sized, pressed against the inside of the window. But Emma was standing 10 feet away. She was the only person in the tower. The only person who could have made that print, but she had not moved. She had not touched the glass. Emma did not move for a long time. The handprint remained on the glass, slowly fading as the condensation evaporated. When it was gone completely, she finally lowered the spotlight. Her hands were shaking. She set the light down before she dropped it. This was not sleep deprivation. This was not her imagination. Something was wrong with the tower. She went to the logbook, flipped backward through the entries. Most were brief routine, but as she went further back, she started to notice patterns. 3 years ago, a ranger had written, heard unusual sounds at night, likely wildlife. 6 years ago, recommend psychological evaluation for extended stays, isolation effect severe. 10 years ago, request early relief, personal reasons. 15 years ago, the glass is not a barrier, it is a mirror. That entry had no signature, just the date in those 2 sentences. Emma flipped further back 20 years, 25. Found an entry from 1987. Ranger Mitchell did not complete his rotation. Found unresponsive at base of tower. No signs of trauma. Autopsy inconclusive. Her blood went cold. She kept reading. 1982. Previous ranger reported visitor outside cabin. No evidence found. Ranger completed rotation, but requested permanent reassignment. 1979. Window replaced on north side after being found shattered from the inside. No explanation provided by ranger on duty. The entries went back further, but Emma stopped reading. She looked up at the windows, all 4 of them reflecting the lamplight, reflecting her 4 versions of herself staring back. She stood and walked slowly to the north window, the one where the knocking always started, pressed her hand against the glass, cold, solid, real. She looked at her reflection, looked at her eyes. Something was wrong with them, not with her actual eyes. With the reflection, the reflected eyes were looking slightly to the left, not at her, at something beside her. Emma turned her head to look directly at the glass. Her reflection should have moved with her. It did not. The reflected Emma continued looking to the left. At the east window, Emma felt her stomach drop. She walked to the east window, looked at that reflection. This one was looking at the south window. She checked the south window. The reflection there was looking west. The west window reflection was looking north. They were not looking at her, they were looking at each other. 4 reflections, each one watching the next in sequence. North watching east, east watching south, south watching west, west watching north. A circuit, a loop. Emma backed away from the windows, moved to the center of the cabin where she could see all 4 reflections at once. They were all looking at each other, creating a cycle, a pattern. But there was a 5th reflection. In the glass of the lamp, this one was looking directly at her, and it was smiling. Emma grabbed the satellite phone. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely dial. The phone beeped. Emergency use only. State your situation. I need immediate extraction. Something is wrong with the tower. Tower 7, state the nature of your emergency. There is something in here with me, something. The line went dead. Emma looked at the phone display. No signal. Impossible. Satellite phones always had signal. She tried again. Nothing. The radio. She went to the desk and grabbed the handset. Base. This is Tower 7, emergency. Request immediate extraction. Do you copy? Static. Base. Please respond. This is Tower 7, emergency. Nothing. Emma set down the handset. The lamp flickered. She looked up. All 4 reflections were still watching each other in sequence, but the reflection in the lamp glass had moved. It was no longer smiling. It was pressed against the inside of the glass, hands splayed, mouth open in a silent scream. Emma stumbled backward, hit the cot, fell. When she looked up again, all the reflections had changed. They were all pressed against the glass now, all screaming silently, all trying to get out or trying to warn her. The knocking started again, but this time it was not on the windows. It was coming from beneath the floor, from the iron supports. Something was climbing. Emma did not remember the rest of that night clearly. She remembered the knocking, the way it moved up the tower supports. Closer, closer. She remembered turning off the lamp, sitting in the darkness, making herself as small as possible in the corner. She remembered the sound reaching the level of the cabin, the scraping moving along the catwalk outside. She remembered closing her eyes and counting her breaths until dawn came. When the sun rose, everything was normal again. The reflections in the windows showed only her, looking where she looked, moving when she moved. The phone had signal. The radio worked. She called for extraction, told them she was sick. They did not question it. A helicopter came at noon. Emma packed in silence, did not look at the windows, did not check the logbook. As she descended the ladder for the last time, she glanced up at the cabin. 4 windows, 4 squares of glass reflecting the empty sky. For just a moment, she thought she saw someone standing inside, watching her leave. But when she blinked, there was nothing. The pilot asked if she was okay. She said she was fine. They flew over the forest. The tower shrank behind them until it was just a small point in the vast green. Then it disappeared completely. Emma never went back. 3 weeks later, a new ranger arrived at Tower 7. Young man, first rotation, excited about the solitude. He climbed the ladder, pushed open the hatch, set down his pack. The cabin was exactly as described, 12 feet square, windows on all sides, a cot, a stove, a radio. He noticed the logbook on the desk, opened it. The last entry was from the previous ranger. 3 weeks ago. Day 2, clear conditions, tower inspection completed, all systems functional. Nothing after that. The new ranger picked up a pen, started to write his own entry. Day 1, arrived 1400 hours, tower condition. He stopped. Something was off about his handwriting. The letters looked wrong, too precise, too controlled. Not like his writing at all. He looked at his hand holding the pen. It was moving on its own, writing words he had not intended. It is not knocking to get in, it is knocking to get out. The ranger dropped the pen, looked up at the windows. 4 reflections stared back. None of them were his. They were all smiling. Outside, the forest stretched in every direction, silent, waiting. The tower stood like a lighthouse in an ocean of trees, 50 feet above the ground. Suspended on iron legs, a glass box, a trap, a mirror that only reflected one way, and inside, someone new was learning the pattern, learning to knock.